Okay, for Wacky craft bags today, we are going to be making this small terrarium, and it's out of a little plastic ornament globe, but it does have an opening at the front. So that was my sample, and here is the empty globe, and we are just gonna pull it apart. It comes apart pretty easily. And we have for you to use to put things together, we have a few sheets of glue dots, but they're really hard to see. So in a lot of the places where you would just use your glue dots, I'm going to use some poster tack so you can see what's happening. So in your supplies, you should have gotten a few little bags with different items in there. And different bags will have different things. We have in this bag, we have some mushrooms. I think everybody got mushrooms. And then we have a couple of little animals. And there's a little hedgehog, unicorns, and then a couple of butterflies. So the butterflies, I put them on the outside so that they kind of give a little extra dimension. But if you really want them on the inside, you can put them in there. This is your ornament. And then we have a couple of bags of just some kind of natural material, different little flowers and bits. And we have a little bit of moss for you. And finally, we have some twine. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this little hat of moss. And I will tell you, this is going to be the messiest part of your craft. It wants to fall apart. So you might want to do this. I'm doing it on a piece of paper so that hopefully I can get most of it back together and throw it out more easily. And I am just going to put a couple of bits of the poster tack on the bottom. And really it's just I hope this will make it stick a little bit while I'm working with it kind of thing. Because eventually when you close it up, and you're going to use your glue dots. But if I use those, you wouldn't be able to see them. So I'm just going to put that in there and kind of get the poster tack to have it hang on. And eventually you'll put your other half together and your moss will be down on the bottom. But in order to work with it, we're going to keep it open. So we should do your background tall flower bits first. So there's a lot of different little bits and pieces that you have in there. And we're going to use different things for different spots. But these two tall, willowy things, wispy things, are your backdrop. And if you really wanted to, you could totally go out in your yard and find other things that you could use. But the main thing with this is you're going to use that little extra bit of stick there. Can you see it? And you're going to take that and stick it down into your moss. And that becomes kind of the background of your scene. Well, that guy's a little bit tall. So if you end up with a really tall one, like this, and if you like it tall and leaning over, you can leave it that way. But if you want, you can trim it off from the bottom. Don't trim it from the top. And then you're going to pull out a little bit of the fluff. Make sure you have a stick then. And then you'll use that to stick it, there we go, into, which way you would see it better, there you go, into your moss. And then we're going to use your mushrooms next. And you're going to kind of use that wire to stick into the moss. That's really all it is, keeping your stuff in there. And you can use this little clump of light green and just kind of wrap it around your wire. And this would be another spot that if you wanted to use, if you find that it keeps falling off, you can use your sticky dots. Put it on the wire of the mushrooms and then stick that little bit of moss to it. And you can certainly separate them if you want, but if you notice they have a little bit of a curl to them, and then you stick it in, that curl kind of forms the base for them. And then we can decorate with all the other little flowers we have. So you have a couple of stasis flowers. Usually you have at least one, sometimes you don't have 2 or 3. And they have this another convenient little stem that you can use to stick down into the moss and position it wherever you like and in whatever direction you like. And you want to give it a little shove into that moss to keep it standing up. Now, I had that little extra bit that I cut off, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it off to the side. And then you can scatter. I have some, like a little red flower. And I think in my sample, the leaves actually came apart. So I just put the petals in there just to kind of decorate the floor of my terrarium. And then, but these guys are sticking together, so I'm going to see if I can get them to stay together. So it's totally up to you and what you ended up getting. So whatever little floral bits and pieces you got, you can use them however you like. So I'm going to just, I think I'm still just going to kind of lay it down there like a flower on the ground. And then I have some little leaves. And they are stuck to a stem, a little stem bit. So I think they look kind of cute like that. I think I'm going to stick them off to the side. And then I got a couple of nuts. And you see it's kind of slipping around. Really the stuff that you use to close to stick the moss to the back doesn't really hold because it's only hanging on to a couple of little flowers. And then last but not least, you can position your little animals wherever you want. So I'm going to have one unicorn in the back. This is another spot where a little bit of one of your glue dots or the poster tack. I'm going to try the glue dot. So with the glue dots, if you've ever used them before, they're kind of tough to get off the paper. They usually stick to one side or the other. So this time it happened to stick, I don't know if you can see it, but it's stuck to the clear side. And I'm just going to put it down on the unicorn. And you got to kind of firmly press it down so that it stays. And then you can peel it off. And that was one of the best peel offs I've ever had with, with the glue dots. And then I'm going to put him in the back, or her, stand her up in the moss. And do the same thing with my blue unicorn, but I'm going to put the blue one, I think, in the front. So again, it came off and it's stuck to the clear part. I'm going to stand my unicorn on it, give it a firm rub so that it adheres to the unicorn, and peel it off. And I'm going to put the unicorn in the front. Now, if you wanted to use only one of the little animals, you could at a time and then change them out. Now, the last little animal I have is the little hedgehog, but it's smaller than the unicorns. Some of you may have gotten bunnies. I can't remember if there was any other animals. So you may, instead of having a hedgehog, you might have a bunny. You might have only one unicorn and have a bunny and a hedgehog. We just kind of mixed it up. And I'll put that last little glue dot on my hedgehog. And this one is going to prove to be hard. So if you can't get it to stay off, what you do is just kind of scrape at least part of it off of the paper. Get it to stick to what you want it to stick to, and there you go. And I'm going to put him kind of partly on my red flower. And then the easiest part is putting the two halves together. You just want to try to make sure that you don't have any moss any of the moss coming out on your sides. And there you go. So we have 2 things left to do. We'll have a teeny tiny little flower here. And I'm just going to put it in there laying down. Not too bad. And you can kind of reposition things from the opening. And there you go. So we have 2, the last 2, I'm going to take my paper that has all my moss bits and get rid of those so I can work on a clean surface. And we're going to make sure everything is lined up. We're going to put our string through the center. And I'm going to tie a regular little knot. And then a second knot on top of it. And then I'm going to try for a little bow. See if I left myself enough string. I think so. There we go. And then you can just hang it from wherever you would like to hang it. But our last thing to adhere are our 2 flowers to the front. So one side of your butterfly has pretty little shiny stones and the other side does not. So we're going to put our glue dots on the back. And what I found with the sample is I needed 2 glue dots. I needed one on this kind of nubby bit, and I think it's made out of some sort of pipe cleaner because there is a sharp bit. So don't push too hard on that. It'll hurt your finger. And I think I used 1 big and 1 little glue dot. For the wing, I used a little, but I think for the body, I used a large one. So we're going to go ahead and peel that off. Oop, and this time it did decide to stick to the paper instead of the clear bit. And this is going to be maybe a little bit harder to get off because you can't do that firm press. So sometimes you have to use your nail to kind of scrape it off. There it goes. And then we're going to take the small one, if I can find where I put it, the small glue dot, and put it on the wing. So it's going to have sort of 2 touch points to keep it on the glass. And I think usually I do it with the top one, but it really just, whichever one you put it on, then you just got to make sure that you press that point against your ornament, your terrarium. Okay, so I know that the center part has sticky and this top wing does. So there's my first butterfly. And here's the second one. And really, that is as simple and as hard as it gets. This time it's stuck to the clear. Gonna put it on the main part of the body there. And hopefully it will peel off. There we go. And I'm gonna put it on this side this time. See which way it sticks. Went to the clear. Let's see. Alrighty. Oops. And then we'll position the blue butterfly. There we go. And it gives a nice little effect of it flying and just landing on our terrarium. All right, I hope yours turns out great. If you have any little figures at home that you would like to swap out, you can certainly have a Pokemon visit your terrarium or something like that. And I hope you enjoy this Wednesday craft bag project.